Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins in the 30th century with sole survivor Captain Varna clutching a crucifix and awaiting his ship's self-destruction. All of a sudden the countdown sequence stops, so the captain shouts out in disappointment. As we jump ahead 5 decades to the salvage vessel Mother 3 pulling up to the cargo ship the Demeter. After going missing 50 years ago without a trace, the abandoned spaceship suddenly appeared on a collision course with Earth. Captain Van Helsing and his ragtag crew of space pirates plan to offload whatever they find of worth before the government arrives to intercept it. Professor Holmwood remains on board Mother with the captain while they first send their navigator Mina onto the Demeter to investigate. She's an intern, so she works for free, which makes up for the fact that the crew spend half of their time lost in space. All of a sudden Mina's vitals skyrocket as she panics at the sound of someone pacing past her and begins running herself, not answering command. She runs straight into the muscle of their crew Humvee, who's more bronze than brains and perfect for these salvage missions. Mina just assumes that she's hallucinating since they picked up no scans of life, and after testing the oxygen levels the pair remove their masks simultaneously to get confirmation. The deprived Humvee drops to his knees pretending to suffocate in order to get a kiss out of Mina, as it's not oxygen that he's lacking. With the air assured to be safe, the rest of the crew board when Abe tells Humvee to keep his tongue in his head or he'll blow it off. Vice Captain Aurora joins them on the Demeter, where they notice a foul smell in the air and date its cargo to be over 50 years old. The final crew member called to join them's named 187, which was his IQ before he started smoking everything in sight. He calls them to the bridge where he's discovered the corpse of the deceased Varna clutching his crucifix, somehow having tied himself to the seat. The film's been cutting to his video log from 50 years ago where he said that the rest of the crew were infected with something but doesn't specify. He's quarantined himself inside his bedroom and says that something's directing them to Earth, but he doesn't know what. Most of the crew doesn't even know what a crucifix is, as religion was banned 200 years ago, so Hummer just calls it a plus sign, and when Aurora asks who God is, the captain says nobody. Despite Van Helsing claiming salvage rights and expecting it to sell for millions once they tow it back to Earth, Aurora and Mina have bad feelings about the Demeter, but Abe assures them that whatever killed the crew would surely be long gone. From the control room the professor gets the power turned on while 187 and Humvee are put on recon and go exploring the ship. As the crew prepares to return to Earth, Mother 3 suddenly uncouples from the Demeter, leaving them stranded with no means of communication. The captain leaves to check the video logs while the professor's tasked with getting the Demeter's controls operational so they can retrieve Mother. Meanwhile, the deckhands locate the source of the smell when they find a cargo bay full of coffins and realize that the Demeter's just one big hearse. 187 speculates that the coffins contain smuggled goods and cracks one open, but cuts himself in the process, and only to find worthless sand. Mina's sent to retrieve the boys for help at the bridge, but only Humvee joins her while 187 decides to stay in the bay and open some more coffins. Van Helsing finds Varna's cabin lined with crosses and the video log that says they were departing planet Transylvania with a shipment of coffins. When suddenly Abe hears screaming and rushes to find 187's been attacked and keeps repeating the single word he. They take him to the professor, who notices the bite marks on 187's neck when he suddenly springs up a full-fledged vampire and attacks them. He tosses the captain to the side, and when taunting the wheelchair-bound Professor, Aurora enters gun drawn but doesn't want to shoot her teammate. When the vampire begins talking about the things he's going to do to the attractive woman, she opens fire, but none of the bullets affect him. She runs away as he chases her through the hallways of the Demeter, until giving up and returning empty-handed to his new master Orlock. The Transylvanian orders his servant to kill the rest of the crew while he goes after Aurora himself, who seemingly becomes the first of his victims. The next is Mina, who's alone in the rec room with the professor and hears a noise in the hallway only to check it out and not even see her abductor. It means Professor's by himself until someone else attempts to enter and the terrified man opens fire on the door. But it's just Van Helsing who hears Mina's missing and goes searching for her with Humvee. They almost light up Aurora when she rounds a corner before listening to a report on the encounter with Orlock. She divulges that he's a vampire from a dead planet and called the Demeter to pick up the coffins with the intention of traveling to Earth. The untrusting captain points his gun at Aurora, so Hummer does the same to him back, until agreeing with Van Helsing that it's strange Aurora is unable to explain how she escaped Orlock unharmed. She possesses no visible bites, but the captain leaves her tied up and guarded by Hummer anyway while he and the professor leave to get this ship moving. The professor manages to take control of the Demeter, and while searching the ship's database they discover that the vampire Orlock's real name is Dracula. They find information about staking them in the heart and learn that the legendary vampire hunter Van Helsing was one of the captain's ancestors. The professor believes Dracula will want to seek revenge against the captain, but Abraham just thinks that this is all a coincidence. Meanwhile, Aurora tries to convince Hummer to untie her and check for bites elsewhere with the promise of seeing her naked, but he resists the temptation. She then pleads with him to use the bathroom, but he tells her to piss her pants if she needs it so badly because he's not letting her free. Soon they begin to hear 187 banging on the door, but Hummer's confused as Aurora tells him not to let the vampire inside. He assumes that it's her that can't be trusted and opens it, only to allow the vampire entry, who attacks and knocks Humvee across the room. The captain hears the commotion and runs to the room to unload his gun on 187, but it doesn't affect the immortal. He brags about the high he gets from being a vampire and allows Van Helsing to continue demonstrating his invulnerability, until Hummer runs him through the heart with a wooden pool cue and slays his first vamp. Still not willing to release Aurora until she explains why Drake never bit her, she confesses that she's in fact an android that was sent undercover to investigate the crew's salvage activities. Humvee feels betrayed by the police officer and wants to kill her, but the captain unties her since her lack of blood could help them survive. Hummer keeps an even closer eye on her and they return to the bridge to find the professor's wheelchair empty, but he's just hidden himself away under a desk when he heard someone coming. Having learned about sunlight from the text about vampires, the captain decides to direct the Demeter on a course towards a nearby star to do a flyby. While Hummer remains with the professor, the captain and Aurora return to the common room to collect some more pool cues for hunting. They search for the bloodsucker inside the sand-filled coffins until finding one containing a sleeping Mina in her vampire state. Van Helsing stakes her, causing Mina to scream and wake up the sleeping Orlock, who confronts the killer of his bride as Aurora is sent by her captain to retrieve backup. The vampire talks about his defeat at the hands of Van Helsing's ancestor when he was known as Dracula and is happy to get revenge as Aurora finally makes it back to the bridge. Humvee's not falling for it again and refuses to open the door, so Aurora retrieves a crucifix from the captain's quarters and returns to help Abe by herself. Humvee changes his mind as he'd rather die fighting while leaving the professor all alone, who, despairing of his chances of survival, goes searching for the others but instead comes across Orlock. The vampire offers to release the professor from his disability in return for aiding his trip to Earth, but appears to take off when he hears a noise. It's Humvee and Aurora getting back to the cargo bay to find their bloodied captain's been transformed into a vampire and attacks them. As Hummer holds him back, Aurora retrieves the stake that appeared to miss Mina's heart and runs it through Van Helsing, killing their captain and saving Hummer but getting jumped by the returning Mina. Aurora uses her crucifix to keep the bloodsucker off her, allowing Humvee to recover and drive one of the pool cues through her heart. When they return to the bridge, they find the professor slumped over in his chair, so Aurora stabs him repeatedly with a cross, revealing him to be a vampire, which is lucky because she says she was just guessing. Suddenly an angry Orlock emerges from his coffin and tries to enter the bridge, but Humvee manages to outmuscle the immortal and close the door, severing his arm off. This is the final scene of Dracula, showing him sulking about his arm before speeding through the Demeter back to his coffin. As the ship draws closer to the system's sun, Humvee and Aurora confess that neither know how to pilot the ship and they're doomed to fly straight into it. They take comfort in the knowledge that Orlock's plans to return to Earth have failed, and Aurora reveals that before she was programmed to spy on them, she was a pleasure bot. Humvee gets a freebie as Captain Varna's video log reveals that his intention was always to sacrifice himself and his ship, as the Demeter reaches the star and explodes, killing the last Transylvanian. And the movie ends.